Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, Ladyada, the engineer, with me, Mr. Ladyada on camera control, broadcasting live from Brooklyn, doing our weekly show as we've been doing for many, many years. Still us, still doing it, not yet uploaded our consciousness to the AI cloud. I got an exciting show for you tonight. Lots of making and hacking. Just came off of a really cool show and tell. Thanks, Noe, for hosting. I tuned in for a bit while I was wrapping up show stuff. But for the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to see what is up with the world of making, hacking, open source, de minimis tariff chat, whatever.
Yeah, we're gonna have probably the best, most accurate, sober, just facts. And here's what businesses like us.
That's not allowed anymore, Phil. I don't know if you've been watching the news. You can't be.
No, this is
sane.
What. No, it's true. People are turning to different sources for news. So we're going to talk about what was announced happened and then didn't within 24 hours for the Postal Service delivering packages under $800 from China and Hong Kong specifically. So you probably saw a bunch of stuff on the news. By the way, don't watch this. Or like consume it in different ways or figure out the best way to cope with the hourly ups and downs of a new administration. I think we all knew there was going to be lots of activity. But we've been kind of watching this story for a bit, and I've written about how packages come in from different places in the world and the fees that they have to pay or don't. So we'll talk about this. You can also look at some previous articles, but we have a lot of stuff here on the show tonight, including a bunch of new products. Got an eye on MPI, a lot of good top secret. Let's kick it off.
Check it. What's on the code?
On tonight's show, the code is fans. We have a lot of fans. Yeah, we have a lot of fans. Didn't want to do OnlyFans because we kind of made a joke about that before, but we have a lot of new products that just happen to be fans. So you know, you can pick up some fans and save some bucks. This is all the way up to 11:59 p.m. tonight. There's also free things, adafruit.com/free. Check it out. Talk about Desk Ladyada. We had a really fun video that was all part of a great search that we wanted to do. We have a JP product pick of the week highlight. Time travel, that's when we're going to talk about what's going on with all those things you want to buy from AliExpress or Temu or Shein. We're going to tell you from our point of view as a USA manufacturer of electronics and more. Have an AdaBox update. Good news and news. We're going to be able to get an AdaBox out faster, but it's not the one that we wanted to get out first, but doesn't matter. That one's still going to come out. We'll talk about that in a bit. Open source hardware news, that's for us, and we're going to be talking about some of our designs we published and more, including the latest from the Adafruit Learning System and your guides that you post up on Adafruit Playground. We will do Ion MPI, that's new product introduction. That's brought to you by DigiKey. This week it is analog devices. We've got some products, we've got some top secret. We're going to answer your questions, including the ones that you post in the chats throughout the show and the ones that you posted on whatever social network of the day, du jour, that you tagged us and we saw it. You can go over Discord, adafruit.it/Discord, and chat with our entire team that's here tonight and more, and ask questions. Stick around afterwards, and we'll get to the questions that you have a little bit towards the end of the show. Okay, Ladyada. So folks should check adafruit.com/free for all the free stuff. The code is fans. Ladyada, let's do a little bit of housekeeping.
Get Europa, guys.
Attempt no landing here.
Attempt no landing here.
All these worlds are yours. Except those. So anywho, in New York City, we've successfully delivered same-day orders via our UPS partner and their partner Rody to all the folks who've wanted them. They've ordered them before 11 a.m. and they arrived in the 5-borough-ish area, if not more, all within like an hour or so. So it's exciting. If you're in New York, we don't have a store that you can visit. You can go to Micro Center. But you can get same-day delivery in New York if you happen to be in the area. We'll expand this as well. Desk of Ladyada this week was pretty exciting. We combined it with the great search. Ladyada, what did you show? This was kind of an a citizen engineering type video. This was like,
Yeah, this was well, we had to do a separate recording because of the weird camera angles. But I fixed a toy for baby Ada. This is like a bumper car that you can control with a remote control when they're young, and then as they get older, they can then push the bumper car controls and they can drive it. But we, had it charging overnight because it was being used by over a play date, and then it stopped working. And I was like, oh no, the motor's burned out. And then I was like, oh no, the controller burned out. And then it turned out actually the battery burned out because the charger that they sent me was a 24-volt charger and the battery on the inside is 12 volts. And like I didn't know that because I didn't open it to see that it was a 12-volt battery. But it basically pumped 24 volts into a 12-volt lead acid. And like, if you're only charging it for an hour, it'll put up with it. But if you charge it overnight, it'll totally damage it. So showed how to figure that out, how to fix it, how to debug it, and then how to pick up a new battery from DigiKey for like 18 bucks.
so check that out. It's a video on our site. You can see how we fix this and more. And then our little kiddo, you can see just a little glimpse of her riding around, but also she rode it today. She had a lot of fun.
I love it.
So yeah, it was good.
Beep, beep.
JP does a show every single week. There is a product pick of the week highlight, and on Thursdays there's JP's workshop. Check out this week's highlight. Here we go.
Is the product pick of the week this week? It is the Matrix Portal S3. Matrix Portal S3 is just here on the back. It is not plugged into the computer, but I can use my phone or my Messages app through the SMS power-up, a text message to that board through Adafruit IO. I'll type in text, Matrix Portal S3. I just texted that to a number that I was assigned by the SMS power-up on Adafruit IO. Matrix Portal is going to go check Adafruit IO to see if there's any new messages. In this case, you can see we got it pretty quickly. And I just have it set up with a cool little scrolling messages app and library or code and library in CircuitPython. There is my product pick of the week this week. It is the Matrix Portal S3.
3D Hangouts returns next week, and Deep Dive is with Scott on Friday. All right, let's do some time travel. Okay, this week, time travel, we have some AdaBox updates. This is always, this is even harder to talk about than things that are going on in politics without, yeah. Well, it's like I have to be specific and vague at the same time. So when we do an AdaBox, we need at least 4 or 5 or 6,000 of something, and we book this in advance. During the chip shortage, it was really hard because it was all lies. And there's still one last lie. These lies like to hang on by their last little lying fingers. And we needed a bunch of something, and we booked it, and it turns out they really didn't have it.
But I didn't find out till 2 months after it was ordered.
So we're not out of money, that's fine. But we have an AdaBox that we wanted to release right away because we want to have like all 4 and do these fast and even offer a different type of AdaBox maybe in the future, monthly. But this is cramping our style because we wanted to get this out in February. So it looks like the one that is kind of in the hopper and ready to go. I like this one. It can even work with the other ones, but we're doing a different AdaBox, and it is just as fun, if not more. So without going into too many details, AdaBox is still shipping. We have all the things that we need for this next one, and now we're just doing some of the last.
There's a spring AdaBox.
Polishing and more. But we're not going to just assume, because they're like, oh, no, we can get these for you, and we can go to another place, another supplier for the previous AdaBox. We'll just cobble along the things that we need, and then once we have enough for that AdaBox, we'll ship that one. So that is AdaBox update without giving away what it is. Yeah, without giving away what it is.
Phil did childcare duty this weekend, so I was able to get a lot done.
That's right. But, the thing is, we don't charge until it ships, so we figure this is the best way to do it. You're not like, oh, I paid all this money and I didn't get it yet. No, we're going to ship it when we could do it. That makes sense when we have all the things and we want it to be good and something that lasts a long time for you. But it is still hard, supply chain stuff, and the world is on shaky ground. And speaking of, so this morning I was like, oh, hey, Lamore, while you were designing hardware and stuff, something was announced in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, something was announced in the news. So I have written about this issue, this thing that's been around since 1930. So without making a judgment call on anyone or anything, there is kind of this like weird loophole that has been going on for a really long time with, and let me pop up here, with how packages arrive into the US from China and Hong Kong. And specifically, it's a couple of big entities that we're all familiar with, Temu, Shein, and then for people in the electronics world, AliExpress, Taobao. So the way it works is if you're well, if you say if you say your thing is less than $800, it just sails through. Basically, like, okay, cool, from China, Hong Kong, developing countries, and this is from 1930. And the
And
reason
also the shipping is free.
the shipping's free.
Basically,
Yeah.
it's like $2.
So I wrote about this in September, and you can see it on the blog. And I'm like, hey, get ready. So the thing that's a little hard to do because I don't think people can keep many thoughts in their head because we're just getting hit every second right now. New administration's in, and the whole thing is like shock and awe strategy. Like, here's a million crazy things, and then like meanwhile, I get it. It's like that's politics. That's what they do. We do electronics. So I wrote about this before when the previous administration, the Biden administration, is like they announced they're like, hey, we're going to try to get rid of the misuse of the de minimis exemption. This was called. They were going to have new rules for data collection on the shipments, exclude certain goods to the U.S. tariffs, require electronic certificates or compliance for consumer products. And the idea was, hey, have Congress pass further reforms. So when a package come in, it has to be like when we send a package out. So we have to do a bunch of paperwork. We pay money. The recipient pays money. There's all sorts of things. And it would modernize this 1930 rule. So you can see what I had. Now, unfortunately, I learned a lesson here too. I linked to the whitehouse.gov back in September. All of the things that were there are gone. I should have did a screenshot in PDF. I just cut it's like, hey, new sheriff in town. Let's scrub everything off the website and start over. So you can, but don't worry. This time I took a screenshot. I got a PDF. But basically, Shein and Temu are the two that are likely responsible for at least 30% of them. And if you're wondering, like, oh, what's the volume of this? 4 million packages a day. 4 million a day. And so
and it makes sense. Like about 1 million packages.
Yeah.
There's 250, whatever, 300 million people in America, maybe.
Yeah.
If even 10% of them were ordering once a week.
Yeah, and
that's it.
That's the source. Chelsea Tam, a senior analyst at Morningstar, and that was via CNN for that number. That stat seems to be correct, but I always put the sources, and it was not corrected later. But I don't think anyone's debating that a bunch of packages come in. So I was like, hey, Lamar, check out this blog post before I hit publish. And I'm like, oh, I took a screenshot of the USPS site. And it's like suspension of inbound parcels from China and Hong Kong. Basically, packages are going to stop. Letters can still go through. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, how many letters are being sent?
I'm going to hit post on this thing soon.
Yeah.
And before I did that, I hit refresh on the Postal Service site. And nope, sorry. Everything's back the way it was. The packages from China, Hong Kong, they're still going. Everything's fine. Don't look at that thing that we said. And I also linked to the Border and Protection site, which is still there, but I got a PDF of it. And basically they're saying like, look, we're getting rid of this de minimis thing. I'm not going to dig too much into politics because like why, but I didn't realize like you could do an executive order and tell the post office to do this. But if you're wondering what probably happened is someone said, we can't process 4 million packages a day. We need to set up something.
Well,
and we need
it's like how, yeah, you have to get the money and there's
more than 24 hours. So there was an executive order, I think a while ago. And then this February 4th one is the goods may not receive a de minimis clearance and enter duty and tax free. So
how is the Postal Service even expected to collect this money?
So this is the thing.
Like what's the
they're never going to be able to inspect all of them in their current system. But I'll say what's most likely going to happen now is, and actually, let me back up a little bit. If you're thinking that like any politician is doing favors for anyone, they're not. They're just like, look, change. We're in control of it now. There's no one cares about the U.S. businesses that may or may not be suffering from everything coming in. Like if you buy a $15 dress on Shein, you pay 0 shipping. and it just comes in, and there's no inspection, there's nothing, there's no declaring what it is.
Okay, but can I say something
Yeah.
from being on the other side of this is when we ship DHL or UPS or FedEx internationally, there is so much work. We have like a full-time developer whose whole job is dealing with the DHL VAT /
we have spent
tax.
millions of dollars in salaries and infrastructure and
But when we want to send a package to like the UK or the Netherlands.
That's right. And you know what? I'm all for it.
Japan.
I'm all for it because that's kind of the
Germany.
way. Yeah, and I'm all for it. That's the way it should be.
It's fine.
There's hazardous goods, there's metals, there's chemicals, you have to declare stuff. Everything has a specific code. There's tariff codes. There's all sorts of things that are in there. And it's fine. What has to happen, it should be the same when a country, everyone's picking on China today, but any country when they're sending stuff to the US should be doing the same stuff that we have to do when we send it out.
Well, here's something interesting because I was looking at AliExpress, and I bought the little storage box on AliExpress. I do check it out. And I noticed that they charge sales tax, which to me was fascinating.
Yeah, in the US a lot's changed with sales tax.
Because AliExpress,
per
maybe they must have some legal entity, some business entity that's in the US that means that they are now required to collect sales tax. Yeah. Because if it was truly a Chinese only company, they would not collect sales tax. But here's the thing, but they collect sales tax on your behalf and then they pay it to the states. Maybe. So what they're going to eventually do is, I don't believe the post office.
They have warehouses in the U.S. and they're operating as a business.
That's true. So, yeah. There's no, they probably have real estate. Okay. There is no way that the Postal Service is going to like knock on people's door and some like unionized delivery person who's been there for 30 years and does their route is going to collect $4.28 for you. No. It ain't going to happen. But what they could do is eventually turn this into like, well, now these companies, if you ship more than $10 million to the US, and by the way, we get hit with this too. Like for New Zealand, they're like, if you sell into New Zealand, now you have to collect tax on behalf of New Zealand. Yeah. They'll have to collect the tariffs and submit them on the customer's behalf. That's what they're probably going to try to do. And like, on one hand, that sucks. On the other hand, like I have to do it. I'm doing it for Europe and New Zealand and Australia. And what's funny is I have to pay more for the lawyer in New Zealand and Australia to manage the filing than the actual tax itself.
That's right.
Like it's a significant amount. Like there's more effort in doing it than actually tax collected.
We're actually, I guess we're just pragmatic. I don't want special treatment as someone who makes and ships electronics. Just want to be on equal playing field. So if stuff's coming in from China via China Post, people ordering AliExpress, great. There's plenty of U.S. Warehousing that's happening. They're there. So I think a lot of companies knew this was coming. Also, there's other services besides the Postal Service. So there's going to be other things that happen. But basically, that was almost going to be what happened today. But I think someone said there's no way we can deal with this. So here's a possible future. And this is like me being super speculative. People are always like, AI is looking for a thing to do. It's a thing trying to solve a problem. One of the uses of AI could be automating the clearance of things, because you have to potentially X-ray the package to see like what's really in there. You have to figure out who it's coming from. You need to make sure it's classified right. And this is something that computers are really good at and fast. And there's only so many things that are going to be in certain categories. So this might be, and like the Postal Service, I know they get dunked on a little bit, but they are pretty advanced. There's like services that...
But it's like, there's not enough people.
There's not enough people. And they do have mail scanning services, and they do scan the mail. And the Postal Service is allowed to inspect any package that's coming in. So I think what we're going to see is the adults that aren't running for, political points or, poll of the day, or just like got to show everybody that, promise made, promise kept, all this stuff that's going on from politics, which is like just shock the system every day. There are going to be people who say like, okay, we did want to get rid of this. Other administrations have wanted to get rid of this. Will it happen this next 4 years? Who knows? But there is movement towards it. And it would be nice for it to be similar to what we have to do. If someone ships something from another country into the US, it should be classified and taken care of the same way we have to do. That would be a great way. Like, I want to compete on the best service, the best pricing, the best products. It's weird to know that people can buy something from, like, we have customers in China. Someone could buy an Adafruit board from China and have it shipped all because they bought it and whatever, shipped all the way from China via China Post, free shipping, but we can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like that's weird and messed
People are
up.
like, why can't you offer like super cheap shipping like
Like
AliExpress?
AliExpress,
It's like
because they don't pay
I
for it.
can't. There is no legal way for me to ship
Yeah.
anything for less than $2 unless I fit it into an
And
envelope.
like 1930 was a
The
long
stamp.
time ago. That was like
Yeah.
to help developing nations get their imports in. So, anyways, that's what's happened in the last 24 hours. And I was like, I was writing a note to our team because like some people are worried about what's going on in the news every hour, as they should, and then some people aren't worried about it, maybe as they should too. But I said, hey, like things are going to change really fast. And as I was doing them, I'm like, wow, things change. So we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much that's what's happening now. Will it change your like workflow as a hobbyist? Probably. If you were used to getting free stuff from free shipping from AliExpress and doing little prototypes all the time, it might change. You might need to buy from their US distributor.
Yeah.
And they'll have
where they'll do the import and then
there'll be a shipping tier there. So anyways, long-winded discussion on
But like
this.
when I buy components, so if I buy components and they're made in China, which like, resistors, capacitors, I have to pay a tariff.
Yeah.
I pay the tariff for it. So it's like I am paying for it. So it makes sense for other people to pay for it too.
Yeah. So one person said, yeah, I'm a small maker. Now I'm going to get charged for things that are coming in. So yes, there's probably going to be
the taxes were always there.
Yeah.
I paid for them and you did not.
Yeah. So
and whether that's fair or not, I don't know. But now it's everybody has to pay.
So if you're in the US and you're like, oh boy, all this time I was getting like free shipping from AliExpress. No, someone was paying for it. It was you in a weird roundabout way, because that's what's happening. Our infrastructure, our stuff, that's used to move these goods. So again, I just want like something equal, and just like, okay, if it's shipped from the US and it goes to China, this is what we have to do. It's if shipped from China has to go to the US, here's what they have to do. And it's kind of similar. I get that it's not going to be identical.
I'm not like pro tariff or anti tariff. I just want, if there is one, I feel like it should be fair, because like Apple gets exemptions. I don't think they should get, like, why do I not get an exemption in Apple?
There's no Adafruit lobbyist yet.
Yeah. So it's a thing.
So, anywho, we're going to probably have to do some of these things on our show, because today, like, I had a ton of emails and just like, what's going to go on? What's going to go on? And then like, same thing. They're like, oh wait, never mind. And a lot of it is for maker businesses that were relying on like China Post and things like that. So anywho, that's our news for this. When we get off air, something's probably changed again. We'll see. I think the moon is a new state, by the way. Welcome, moon.
I like the moon.
The shipping is really expensive to get there, though. So anywho, that is today's Adafruit News Network, Anne. So let's do some open source hardware.
Okay.
Okay, and read it on our blog. So open source hardware news, learning system, Ladyada, what is on the big board tonight?
Okay, we got 3 guides this week. We're going to be getting more guides soon, but 3 really good ones. Jepler did an amazing job getting RGB matrix panels working at the Raspberry Pi 5. For folks who've used the HZeller, our Pi RGB matrix panel, Python code, whatever C code, that bit banged on the Pi 0 through Pi 4. There was an issue with like 15 trillion comments. They're like, it doesn't work on the Pi 5, it doesn't work on the Pi 5. Because the Pi 5 has a different I/O system. It doesn't have direct GPIO access. It goes through an I/O controller. And so you don't have fast bit bang GPIO anymore. The trade-off, though, is you have PIO control. I sent Jeff on a quest to port the protomatter from that we actually already did for the Pi, the Pico RP2040 and 2350 back to the Pi 5, which is kind of cool. Went from microcontroller to microcomputer. Works great. And then Tim C did a great guide. He's awesome with graphics, and did a guide on playing videos, on mirroring your graphics display, on using Pillow to scroll text and do animated GIFs. Anything you want what to do. And you can have multiple panels and chain them together, and you get excellent quality video. I mean, the dithering and the quality is much, much better than on the Pi 3 or Pi 4. So I really will tell people, like, if you want to do RG Matrix projects, get a Pi 5.
Okay.
Okay, next, Sparkle Motion skirt from Erin. This is cool. I think
Yeah, we're gonna play a video.
I think this she used the Sparkle Motion board for this. That's really neat. Sorry, for Sparkle Motion project. And then Pedro did a toddler timer. We saw like in Instagram, and we're like, hey, that would be a cool rebuild. You know, if you have a kiddo that can't read a clock, but you want to have a thing where it's like when all the LEDs are off, it's time to get off the trampoline, or it's time to take a bath, or it's time to snack, whatever. You can use it for a potty timing training. I don't know, whatever, training timing. So all sorts of uses. The human can read the text, the adult can read the text, and the kiddo can look at the glowing stars.
Okay. So we're gonna watch a quick video with Erin for the Sparkle Motion dress, and then we'll be on the other side to talk about playgrounds. And don't forget, there is playgrounds. You can go to our learning system and check it out there in the latest
Good stuff.
playgrounds. Yeah, any of you can post up your
Yeah,
guides.
broke something, took it apart, took some photos. How does it work? Cool.
Yeah, CNC Warrior Turtles,
Sam is doing a bunch of stuff with Zephyr.
Zephyrquest,
So check that out.
Greenhouse Temperature Logger.
Is this
And then this is the one that we talked about last
can
week.
you go to the top?
Yeah.
Did you click on? Oh no, this is new. Okay, sorry.
Oh, sure.
The versus featured. Okay.
Okay. Let's do some 3D printing. Okay, we're going to show off the toddler project and a speed up for Lunar New Year. Stay tuned.
You can build a countdown clock to help teach toddlers how to visualize time. This project uses NeoPix LEDs to represent blocks of time that can be set up to count down any number of minutes. It features an OLED display to show the time remaining and a rotary encoder to set up the intervals and to start and stop the countdown. You can customize the blocks of time in the code and easily cycle between them with a rotary encoder. We think it's a unique way to show the passage of time with NeoPixel LEDs. This uses the Adafruit QtPy RP2040 dev board to drive the NeoPixels and the rotary encoder. CircuitPython makes it easy to change up the code so you can make adjustments or adapt it to roll your own countdown timer. You can customize the code to have different blocks of time or change the colors of the NeoPixel LEDs. The code is free to download from the GitHub repo and available on learn.adafruit.com. You can get the parts to build this project, links are in the description. The enclosure features a multi-material top cover for diffusing the NeoPixel LEDs. This makes for an easy assembly so there's no need to glue the parts together. The QtPy snap fits into a 3D printed holder that features mounting tabs. Adafruit's Stemma QT makes it easy to daisy chain the rotary encoder in the OLED display. This low-density NeoPixel strip slots into the built-in clips inside the enclosure. The OLED display is panel mounted to the top cover and then snap fits over the base of the enclosure. We think young makers will enjoy this project as a way to learn about time. We hope this inspires you to check out CircuitPython for your next project.
Absolutely. And before,
Cool snake, bro.
yeah. And before we go off to INMPI, don't forget the code is fans. Ladyada, let's kick it. INMPI brought to you by DigiKey. Every single week, we show you all the coolest things that come from the world of the future. New product introduction.
Okay, this week it's from Analog Devices, which purchased Maxim, which purchased Trinamic. So I'm going to call it a Trinamic chip, but Analog Devices is the current vendor of these boards. And this week we're looking at the TMC 5272. And look, I looked, and we've covered two Trinamics chips before on INPI. It seems like every year or two, basically, a cool one comes around, which makes sense. It's like they come up with new revisions. We actually recently put in a really cool TMC 2209 stepper driver board. It's very popular. In fact, it's sold out. We're making more as fast as we can. These are silent steppers. They're very smart. They're very quiet. They're very fast. They're very efficient. We also did a fun project using the TMC 2209 to make this very silent, very smooth turntable IKEA hack. Check that out on 3D Hangouts. They got all the STL and stuff to build it. Knowing Pedro were working on it, they said, wow, like this is a really nice stepper motor driver. And that's not even one of the more recent ones. Like I said, we've covered the TMC 2226 and the 5240. All of them have improvements over time. I think we did one in like 2020 and one in 22 or 23. But this week we're going to be looking at the TMC 5272. Couple things going on here. So this is, one of their most recent ones. And what I like is they don't like rest on their laurels. They're always coming out with new and better chips. And there's a lot in this one, which we'll talk about. But the big thing is it's a motion controller and stepper motor driver, and it has dual axis motion control. That's right. It's double the trouble. You remember this?
No, I remember this. Yeah.
Twins. Okay. They're so cute, just like this stepper motor driver. So this driver, like I said, it has the ability to drive two bipolar stepper motors. I think the voltage range is 2 to 20 volts. One of the trade-offs of having it being able to do two stepper drivers is that, you can't, the amount of heat dissipation means you have about like 1.5 amp max rather than 2 or 3 amp max output current for the steppers. But to be honest, unless you're doing some like huge robotics project, 1.5 amp peak is quite fine. 1 amp, kind of average. Lots of the stuff that you expect, the UART, the SPI, the step direction, but also stuff like encoder, reference switches, diagnostic output, and no external current resistors required, which is pretty cool. Plus this tricoder, which they come up with kind of cool names. The Trinamic tricoder. Okay. One thing, other people maybe they love this, but it's a chip scale package, which means it gets to put a lot of pins in, 36 pins, and it's really, really small. It's 3 by 3 millimeters, but you're going to need a 4-layer board, buried vias, and like do the routing required. And of course, it's not going to be very easy to attach a heat sink on there. So just, keep that in mind as you're designing it. But one thing I did like is, if you're going to have a chip that small, it doesn't make sense to also have like two enormous 2512 external current sensor resistors. They have non-dissipative current sensing. So they figured out a way to basically measure the current going through the H-bridge. Maybe they have pre-calibrated the, RDS on versus the temperature, et cetera. So they know what the current is, and so they can measure the voltage across the drain and source. And now they know, I don't know how they did it. But basically they do current limiting without resistors externally and without any internal resistors either. And then you can set the motor current to scale it via the digital interface. The other thing is, okay, let me look here. Okay, so another downside-ish thing about having the WLCSP package is, there's a lot of pins and they're all used. And so for stuff like the step and direction interface, not that I would recommend using step direction, but if you were to use it, it's shared with the reference switches. So like you can either use the encoder or reference switch, or you can use step direction. So I'm not expecting people to use that interface, but it is there where you basically set direction high or low, and then you can pulse the step pins. There's 2 sets to make the stepper motor go back and forth. And here's the showing. It's like the GPIO pins are like, or the reference switch, or the step, or direction, or the external emergency stop. So, there's a couple of pin sharing things. What I recommend you use if you're going to talk to it is UART or SPI. It doesn't have I2C, but it kind of makes sense. So UART, it's a single pin UART interface, but that means that if you're using like a microcomputer that has USB, you can use a USB to serial converter, and you'll be able to do full control via like almost any software. It's kind of a universal interface, and you can daisy chain them. There's a couple different ways. You can have multiple of these dual access controllers on one UART. So you don't have to have multiple UARTs. You have one for all of them. And there's a packetized system, and they have drivers and everything if you'd like. If you have lots of GPIO and SPI interface, SPI might be a little bit easier. Definitely less, you don't have to worry as much about baud rates and like CRCs. I find SPI to be a little bit more reliable. Then you just need one chip select pin per, and of course you're not sharing one GPIO for MISO and MOSI. So the other thing is, because you are expected to use this digital interface to configure it, there's like 1 trillion registers and configurations, and I'm not going to go through them. The data sheet's 254 pages. Have fun. Some of the cool things about it is, of course, you can set the micro steps, you can set velocity, you can get the current limit, you can set up all the limit switches and stuff. But they also have a motion controller built in, which is really nice, because a common thing you have to deal with stepper motors is like, you have the inertia of like starting up the motor, and you want to like slowly ramp it up. And then once it gets to speed, you want to kind of like zoom to where you're going. And then as you are getting close to the destination, you kind of want to like slow it down and microstep some more. And what's neat is that because there's this SPI interface, you can do this all in the control. You don't have to have your microcontroller or my computer do this. The stepper motor does this for you. You tell it where you are, how far you want to go, the distance per step based on your gearing and whatever. And you just tell it, hey, I want you to get to this location about this much time. And like you can set up the parameters, and it takes it from there, which is cool, because you can get, like, as you see in the middle, as you want to get to where you're going fast, it does high velocity, full steps, so not very precise. But as you're getting to the destination, it starts micro-stepping, slowing down a little bit to get precision destination, and start and stop. Okay. Next up, to use the really smart access control where you tell it, like, I literally want to go like 20 millimeters this direction, or, halfway to the end of the bar or whatever. You do have to do some homing where you tell it like where is 0 and then where is the destination. And then, as I showed you, there's like limit switch capability, but it also has this thing called stall guard, where it uses the back EMF to detect when it should have moved, but it didn't, because the back EMF will change when the motor hasn't actually moved. You do have to go at a certain velocity, so you kind of whack into the end, but maybe as long as there's like a soft, I don't know, rubber thing that it bumps into, it won't damage anything. Reminds me of those old Apple floppy drive controllers. Otherwise, you can use built-in limit switches. So you wire the switch directly into the controller, and it will handle the like, oh, when I hit the limit switch, I will immediately stop and brake. So you don't have to worry about like your microcontroller, my computer, getting the IRQ and then remembering to tell the controller stop. It's all handled within chip, which is definitely the right way to do it. There's also an encoder. So if you don't want limit switches, but you want to know when the motor has moved, you can put in a magnetic or optical encoder on the shaft, wire that up, and again, the TMC will handle all that for you. It'll like keep track of like how many steps and when the encoder moved, or whether the motor slipped. That's one of the problems with stepper motors, is that they can slip and you wouldn't, normally you wouldn't know. And then the second detection, which I thought was kind of neat, is standstill step loss. So, it's like if you release a stepper motor, like you have a 3D printer that's off, you can move the X and Y around, but then the motor driver has to rehome it afterwards. What's nice is it can detect when that's happened. Like if the motor is not activated and the chip is kind of like in sleep or whatever, it can still tell, oh, you moved the motor. And so when it comes back up, what I think is my X and Y location is not true anymore. There are eval boards available for this driver. There's like the USB part on the left, lower left there, and then the actual motor controller itself. And it's plug and play. You just can like give it power, and you give the 2-stepper motor driver pins over there on the kind of northeast corner. You can wire up your steppers and immediately start testing it using their software. They have an IDE, which I'll show you in the video, called TMCL. Doesn't seem to run on Mac, does run on Windows and Linux. I don't know, Mac users. You have everything else going for you. And then, of course, all of the hardware designs, they've got a lot of stepper driver sticks and eval boards and dev boards. Especially with these stepper motors, if you're dealing with the high voltages and currents, you want to make sure that your layout and schematic is right. And they'll give you the references, but then maybe you just want to copy and paste it. Good news, it's open source hardware. Cool logo. I love it when they embrace the open hardwareness. And luckily, it's in stock.
It's available.
If you would like to try this out, pick up an eval board. There's a bunch in stock. Pick up some chips. If you want to do 2-stepper motors, and especially the fact that you can say, I want to move to this XY coordinate, and it will handle it all for you. You can do a lot without having to have a separate coprocessor to do like the real-time motion planning. Like it can do a lot of the motion planning on its own, which is great.
And we have really good video from DigiKey we're gonna play.
Let's go see it.
And then after that, we'll do some new products.
It's time for a DigiKey unboxing. Let's take a look at the TMC5272 eval kit from Analog Devices, an evaluation kit for the miniaturized, smart, high-performance TMC5272 dual-axis stepper motor controller and driver IC. So, let's get started. Inside the box, you'll find the TMC5272 evaluation board, the Landungsbrücke interface board, and the Eisatzbrücke bridge connector board. The TMC5272 stepper motor driver provides 2 channels with spread cycle for highly dynamic motion and Stealth Chop 2 for noiseless operation, maximum efficiency, and improved torque. It offers dynamic current control, sensorless motor load detection, and a sensorless full-step encoder. The board includes ABN encoder interfaces and 2 power supplies for a full voltage range of 2.1 to 28 volts. In this demonstration, we'll walk through the steps to get started with examinations using the TMCL IDE velocity mode. With the boards assembled, stepper motor connected, and power supply off, open the TMCL IDE. Then connect the TMC5272 eval kit with the USB-C cable. Now connect the power supply. Open current settings. Set the target motor current to your stepper motor specifications and click Calibrate Settings automatically. Next, open the Velocity Mode tool and Velocity Graph. Now set the desired velocity and acceleration and move the motor using the arrow button. Thanks for watching.
Okay, don't forget the code is fans.
Fan.
And let's do some new products.
Yes. Okay, first up, new from Noah and Pedro, the 3D Hangouts folks. We've got another cool 3D printed, ready to go case, this time for the Cutie Pie. It's a very small little board. You snap your Cutie Pie board into it, then you can mount it. You can also like break off those little ears if you desire. Great for, Cutie Pies are so small, they're on mounting holes. This kind of lets you have mounting holes. And you can still solder to all the contacts if desired. Second, we have the another version of our, these are very thin, small panel mount USB-C connectors. And this one has USB-C broken out, which is really nice. Sorry, the CC pins broken out.
Yeah.
So you have power ground, data minus, data plus, and then the CC1, CC2 pins, which means unlike the other 4-pin version, this one can act as a host or client. You just want to do the right thing with the CC pins. If it's a client, you'll want to have 5.1K resistors. Yeah, I just thought it was like kind of nice. It's like a little, it's very compact. It has a little protective dongle thingy on the end there too. But good if you have that little case and you want USB-C and you don't want to, you want to make sure that it works with Macs and Windows and Linux and other devices.
All right, so for the fans that, hey everybody, you're a fan of Adafruit? We have a bunch of fans. You can go to adafruit.com/new. I didn't want to put in like essentially the same looking photo over.
But there's like big ones and small ones.
Yeah.
So Nona and Pedro were like, hey, can we get some fans in because we want to redo our USB fume extractor. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll get some with the USB connector already on them so you don't have to do any soldering even.
That's good.
Because you can always keep the connector off, right? But it's like annoying if you want to put it on. And this way you can plug it into like a computer for like quick cooling.
Yeah.
So they come in a variety of sizes from 3 centimeters square up to 9 centimeters square. And like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
They get a little bit more expensive as they get bigger, but they're still very inexpensive. They're like about $3, $4, $5 a piece. They don't have PWM or a tachometer output. If people really want, I can get ones that do, but for now I'm just sticking with simple. If you want to control these, I recommend using something like our MOSFET breakout because it'll have the flyback and a little LED to tell you, and you can PWM them, but they're very simple brushless fans. Basically, you give them 5 volts, they spin. That's it.
Okay, and then the star of the show, besides you, Ladyada, all the fans out there, our team, our customers, our community, all the folks that are trying to do good in this world, and you know, showing and sharing, coming together. You know, we're doing it. I see something cool.
Yeah, so we've got these. I think last week we showed them off, and we didn't have them in stock, and we do have them in stock. And I know some people wanted them. I wanted to highlight them and also show it on.
It's real.
So we've got these round displays, easy to use. We've got Arduino and CircuitPython code for them now. And I've also got the M4I's demo code running on the board. We'll do a version with 2 eyes, and I'm also going to publish this code soon, hopefully in the next couple of days. I want to do a little bit more work. I want to see also if I can get this working on the ESP32 and the RP2350. But a lovely 240 by 240 display, and it's round and breadboard friendly, but there's also an iSpy connector on the back. So here's the demo. This is my prototype, which is green. So just, you know.
And also, no one give me any guff about this Autodesk Eagle mousepad. I collect old weird mousepads, and this is an old weird one. And look at the one underneath. That's when Apple and Next merged. Like, these are cool. It's not that I'm like all for Autodesk. I have a collection of old. I will have a mousepad museum one day.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so you get the eyeball. Of course, it looks great on the round display. There's iSpy, so if you want to connect it without having to solder any wires, that's also available. 240 by 240 uses the GC9A01 chipset. It's, you know, an SPI generic display. It's just not ST7789, but IPS, it looks good at every angle. High refresh. This one's not taped down. I think it has, you know, backlight control. I think it can, I'm driving this here at like 30 megahertz and it seems to be fine. So you can drive it pretty fast.
I noticed when we did our video that we're going to show because it's part of the top secret, even though this just came out, it looks like the eye is looking at both of us talking about it.
Hey.
It's like, hey, don't talk about me.
No.
No, talking about eyeball.
Yeah.
Talking about eyeball. Okay.
Hey, well, we have the screens in stock now, so if you want to pick them up.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, that's new products.
Yay.
Okay. Let's do top secret. We have your questions lined up, and we have some questions here.
Get out of here.
So here's some top secret. Well, first up, this is what we've been talking about. That was the intro. That's the little graphics I have. It's not.
I just needed a name for the file.
I wanted this to be like a skateboard deck look, or like a thing. So it's Fruit Jam. No, we have some names. I did. We have some naming ideas. But anyways, yeah. What is this, Ladyada?
So, you know, because I'm finishing up the Metro RP2350, which I wanted to get into the store this week, but it didn't quite happen. So like next week, hopefully, I think should be possible. And the RP2350, has this HSTX capability that lets you basically plug in DVI output. It doesn't use a PIO, which means that you can use a PIO for something like USB host. And so the Metro has like some pins for USB host, and it has this, HSTX connector. And we were making the joke that it's like, oh, well, if you have USB and you have DVI, like it's like a little computer. And I was like, oh, well, like, I kind of like socked that away in my brain. And then I was reading, there's a hack chat over at Hackaday with Eben Upton. And I was like, well, Evan's chatty. Maybe he'll drop some cool gossip or something, right? So I'm reading it, and he mentions this Ichigo Jam thing over and over again. He's like, yeah, the DVI output has like, it's like, so we can do Ichigo Jam. And I'm like, what is this? It was a little like $15 computer that had composite out, and it had USB in. It used like the USB client as host. You just like type directly on it. It was pre-programmed with like a basic-esque language. And I was like, oh, well, like we could do something like that with the RP2350, but you have like full color, 320 by 240 on 640 by 480 graphics, or maybe like 640 by 480, but like, 8-bit color, and you could have USB host, and like you could have USB keyboard and mouse. And then like I kind of was like, before I know it, I was like, oh, let's design a computer. So if you want to go back or hide me, I can point out some things, or I don't know. So you've got the RP2350 in the center. And then from the left to the right, there's an iSpy connector if you want external display, micro SD for storing files, and it has SDIO interface, USB-C for like the bootloading and debugging and stuff, DVI output, I2S audio DAC with stereo headphone and speaker you can select, a couple buttons. And then on the bottom right, there's a STEMMA QT, 2 USB ports connected to a USB hub chip, which we'll see if that works. A big on-off switch, which I really liked. It's like a really tall actuator. Little JST 3-pin connector, reset button, 5 NeoPixels, and then 16 megs of flash and 8 megs of PS RAM. And then there's a socket header strip you can use for more GPIO. I mean, the QFN 80 version of the RP2350 has tons of pins, and this uses all the pins, but you still have like a lot available even after the DVI and the USB and SDIO and everything and iSpy. So it's kind of nice. It's like it's credit card shaped.
Yeah.
But I think this could run a lot of like the RP2350. You can overclock it. It's a dual Cortex M33. It should be able to run emulation of like ZX Spectrum, maybe Apple IIe, maybe your Commodore 64 type things.
Yeah.
It's not a teensy 4, but it's like it's getting there.
Getting there.
You can I've seen people overclock it at 300 megahertz. It's a fair
Formidable.
It's a fair formidable chip.
Okay.
We'll see what it can do.
And then even though we just released the round display, this is a little bit of a like top secret behind the scenes of as we are working on it and more.
Hey, Ladyada, I see something cool.
Yes, I only have eyes for you. This is our classic Halloween M4 based eyeball code that maybe folks remember from the Halloween M4, the monster mask. It's got the really high quality eyes with the DMA, the scan line generation, all good stuff. But the code that we had for it was really hardware based. It was really dependent on using the exact hardware for the Halloween M4. And I wanted to like make it work on these new round displays we have because like, duh, it's like a round eyeball. It turns out that's actually really, really hard to kind of pull away the hardware definition for these boards with all like the pins and the flash memory and the flash writing and like the internal storage, So I spent the last like day and a half, and what I did is I kind of like tore it apart so that now in my and you can see I called this file try number 4 because that's how many tries it took me to do.
Final underscore final 01.
I now can do things like define the type of display and what pins it's on and the sensors and the SD card storage that I'm using. And so in this case, I'm using the GC 9A01 instead of what was before the ST7789. Everything else is pretty much the same, although I'm going to try to do a little bit more refactoring to kind of take out the platform agnostic stuff, because another thing I want to do is get this working on the RP2350, which is about the same speed or faster than the M4 and also can be overclocked quite a bit. And also a lot of people have asked for it on the ESP32, which I think can also do it. So, how can I take everything but that like DMA push part, have that specific to the SAMD51, and then for each platform, I'll just have to implement, SPI DMA, but that usually isn't too bad. Anyways, looking good.
Yeah,
So
this
far.
is really complicated and tough. For those who know, you know.
Yeah,
so-
refactoring old code is always
Woo!
a
Okay.
joy. Okay.
Stuff.
And here's just a more another preview of our game that we're calling The Great Search. This is Ladyada. She's going through this cyberpunk world and she's exploring it. She'll be looking for parts and more. Folks will be able to play this on Android and Android and Android. Android. Now, of course, it'll be Android and, of course, iOS and web and all that, and Android. So check it out. We have some fun music and a lot of cool stuff going on with this. And I'm really happy with it so far. That's top secret.
Questions.
Go right into questions. Okay, Ladyada, let's do these and
Okay.
the ones in the chat.
Read around them.
You ready? How would I be able to add sound to it? This was the ESP32 C3 Cutie Pie.
We have a Cutie Pie BFF that has audio out.
Okay. Next question that came in, is there a resolution limit? This was for the RP2040 DVI.
It really doesn't. It doesn't have enough SRAM to really do 16-bit color on more than 320 by 240. I would stick to that, but it will. The resolution will show up as 640 by 480. It doubles each pixel.
Okay. Did a little bit of discussion on VVH tape a week or so ago. I would think be interesting to hear you talk about different kinds of common things, tapes, fasteners, and closures. Who knows what else that come up in electronics projects that aren't electronics but are vital to bring the project together.
We do. We talk a lot of that and PI. I've covered a lot of like connectors and terminal blocks.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
and
Pass on.
SMT nuts. I mean, every fifth one is usually a mechanical thing, tools and stuff, and also Desk Ladyada covers that sort of stuff too.
Okay. Next up, is there something in the store for connecting featherboards to the iSpy displays with the FPC cable like Proto Tripler Cowbell, Pi Cowbell, or Pico, or iSpy BFF for Cutie Pie?
I should design one. I've been meaning to, and I haven't finished it, but hopefully, maybe this year.
Okay, and this one, we get this question once in a while. This person's like, I recently graduated as an EE, and I can't find employment right away. My question is there a good way of getting real engineering experience in some volunteer sort of way, something similar to contributing to open source software projects for PC, be circuit design work? Yes, absolutely. So here's what you're going to do. You ready? Start yourself GitHub. Do the GitHub. Put a profile up. Learn Markdown. Make a nice profile. Put your firmware up under open source licensing. Not required, but good idea though. Put your schematics under Creative Commons license. Make your hardware open source hardware and have people use it. Just do that. And along the way, do things with makerspaces, hackerspaces. Come on the show and tell at Adafruit. Send us pictures and more and do a playground guide. And before you know it, you're going to have a complete portfolio with advanced engineering experience. And you're going to also be able to communicate your ideas and your decisions and all that via video, via text, via whatever photos you take. You're going to do good documentation. And all of that together, plus some publishing, start a little blog. Do some social media, put your schematics and stuff up there. And before you know it, you'll have job offers. If you get really ambitious, sell your stuff on Tindy. If you're in Europe, what's the other one?
Electrons.
Electrons.
And
this is something that it'll happen really fast because although that all sounds like fun, it's like, oh, but that sounds just like fun stuff. I want to get a job. That's how we hire, and that's how a lot of people hire now. So just having, someone say this person might know these things is a little different than here's the things that we can look at. A experienced senior engineer, someone that was applying for an EE job right out of school, and they said, here's my GitHub repo and here's my schematics, versus a candidate who didn't.
yeah,
Which one would you look at first?
I mean, if you want real world experience, that doesn't have to necessarily be a job. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to work at a mechatronics company, build a 3D printer. If you want to work in healthcare, build your own like medical.
If you want to do what we do, make a feather wing.
Yeah.
There's a whole ecosystem around it. And you could sell them to us, or we could. There's all sorts of things.
You want to do space projects? There's a lot of CubeSat group
Yeah.
that you can join. You don't need to have a university affiliation even.
Yeah.
There's always hobbyist groups doing what you're interested in. You might have to do some.
I think there's actually too many things you can do now. So this is a nice sliver just for being in the
contests and Hackaday contests, instructable contests. Enter these.
Go in and dominate it.
Go in, win some of these competitions. It's not that I'm saying it's easy, but like with a little bit of effort,
I'll say this:
place in the top 10.
The fact that you knew to even ask us, that means you're already on the right track.
Okay.
Looking forward to working with you one day.
Okay.
Let's
get the rest of the questions.
Okay, so those are the ones we got in advance. So let's do the ones that came into the chat. Do you know any NN wave sensors that can be used to detect bugs in the attic or any other area that humans aren't walking around?
I don't know any that do bugs.
Okay.
That's a tough problem.
ABT, is it you who do all the music arrangement for Adafruit videos? Usually yes, but I also work with musicians, and our musicians, the deal is it have to be someone who either works at Adafruit or worked at Adafruit as some type of role. Dan Q, who does the music with me now, is someone who ran our receiving department for a bit. Are there still plans to release a board with the ADS122C04 I2C 24-bit ADC?
I have a prototype, but it's one of the many, many, many boards in my pile.
What is the meaning of ISPI?
It's a FPC standard that we use that we didn't invent it. It's based off of Dragon. I can't remember the company, but they use it on their displays.
Okay.
And it basically has SPI for display plus touchscreen plus chip selects plus GPI plus IRQ. Basically everything you need to basically do displays. It's like for visible displays, and it's like I think it's 18 pin.
Do you put a knot in your green jumper to indicate it's not aground?
No, it's just.
Okay.
It's a,
How would one make a taskbar plugin for Raspberry Pi? Like make a custom battery icon on the bottom or top right?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good one for the Raspberry Pi forums. I bet somebody there knows.
Taskbar plugin.
Because it's not a Raspberry Pi thing. It's a Linux desktop manager thing.
Yeah.
There's ways to add plugins, but I don't know how you do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Software question.
And then we got a request for the timely. It's like there could be little tariffs that fly in and get you. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think there could be some retro levels of like you get transported to Adafruit year 1 and you're taking your little cart of packages to the post office.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah. Okay.
You can argue with the guy behind the counter every single time. He's like, you have to. He wouldn't let me just fill out the same form from memory. He's like, no, you have to. Like, I have to look it up in the big book of tariffs.
Those were kindler, simpler times, perhaps. Okay.
I got yelled at by so many postal people. I did nothing wrong. They were just really grumpy.
Yeah.
To be fair, it was the 24-hour South Station post office, which was my closest, and like.
If you had to rank the grumpiest postals, I would say the 24-hour one in New York and the Seaport is probably it.
The funny part about that one, though, is, every April 15th, because they're open the latest at like 10 p.m., there's people there like doing their taxes. And it's like, come on.
There's always a news crew. It's like, why did you wait to the last second? It's like, I don't know. I'm going to do a different here. Okay. That's really the questions this time. Okie dokie, everybody. That is our show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't get outrage fatigue. Take a break. Do some electronics. Hang out with us. And the Adafruit blog is a perfectly acceptable source of all the news you need in life.
Yeah, you don't really need
It's all the nutrition you need. So we'll see everybody next week. This has been an Adafruit production. Here is your moment of Zener.
Good night, everybody.